Alright guys and gals, we're back once again with another fun-filled, action-packed, flipped geometry classroom video. And you know what? That's the calculator getting ready to rumble because we're going to be using it a lot for this finding the measure of an angle using trigonometry today in these notes right here, right now. So first of all, make sure your calculator's in degrees before you can solve, or else it's not gonna work. And let's go through the steps. I'm just gonna read these to you just like last time, and then we'll see it in practice. Step 1, determine your angle of reference. That's where the smiley face guy is gonna be, which is the angle you're finding. Next, we're gonna label our sides. Remember, you always label your sides with opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. Step 3, we're going to determine which sides we're using and which trig ratio you're going to need for those sides. And then finally, you're going to set up your equation and you're going to solve using the inverse of the function. Notice how it's in all caps so you don't mess it up. Inverse. All right, so let's see these steps in action. First triangle, one on the left. First of all, we're going to determine the angle of reference, which is the angle we're finding. They're always going to give that to you, and that's where you're going to be looking from, okay? So in this first triangle, you can see that our angle of reference, where theta is in the top left. Now that we know that, let's label our sides. First, let's label the hypotenuse. That's the easiest one. That's the one across from the right angle, so there's the hypotenuse. Boom. Next, where's the opposite side from our angle theta? That's over here at the 6. That's the opposite side. And then lastly, the adjacent side would be the one that we haven't labeled yet, which is the 3. Now that we have our 3 sides labeled, you're going to pick a trig function using the 2 sides that are given to you. Which 2 sides do we know here? We know the opposite side and we know the adjacent side. That is because they gave us the 6 for the opposite right here. Oh my goodness. And they gave us the 3 on the adjacent side right there. We can't use the hypotenuse here because we don't even know what that value is. And we're going to set up an equation using the trig ratio that utilizes these 2 sides. So remember, we got sa, ka, choa. Alright, so we know the opposite and the adjacent side. Now, which one of our functions uses the opposite and adjacent side? That's the t, that's tangent. So we're going to be using tangent. This time we don't know the angle, so we're just going to write tangent of theta. We're trying to find theta here, okay? It's pretty much like the x. Tangent of theta equals, and what numbers do I know? It's opposite over adjacent, so that's O over A, which is 6 over 3. There you go. Now, this is just going to be a simple one-stepper. We're trying to get the theta by itself, okay? Now, how am I going to get rid of a tangent? You would do this. Check it out. We're going to use the inverse trig function. So we're going to go like this. Bam. We're going to take the inverse tangent of both sides, and that is going to give me my answer. So look at this. This inverse tangent right here, that would cancel out the tangent on the left side, and then on my right side, this is going to leave me with theta equals the inverse of the tangent, 6 over 3. And how would I actually find that number? You're going to go into the trusty calculator, turn it on, boom, make sure it's in degrees. Then the trig function, select the inverse of tangent, then type in 6 divided by 3, and then press enter. Boom, that's going to give you a number, and you're going to round. I'm going to round to the 10th spot, so I'm going to put 63.4 degrees. Remember, theta is degrees, so if you don't write degrees, then we don't even know what we're talking about, so make sure you write the degrees for theta, and that's all this is. You're just setting up that equation, taking the one step using the inverse trig ratio, and then that is it. So let's do number 2. Once again, determine your angle of reference. Well, that's over here. Yeah, that's where the smiley face is. Yeah, it's on the top right. Now let's label our sides. Where's the hypotenuse? That's 13. Where's the opposite side from the theta? That's over here. It's unknown. And where's the adjacent side? It's the leftover side. That's the 9. Now, which two sides do we know? We know the 13, which is the hypotenuse, and we know the 9, which is the adjacent side. Which one of our trig functions uses the adjacent and the hypotenuse side? That's going to be cosine. So this time we're going to write cosine of theta equals 9 over 13. Now to get our theta alone, we're going to take the inverse of cosine on both sides. So we're going to do this. Cosine -1. Bam, gone. And then we're going to take the inverse cosine. I need to leave more space next time for this. Okay. So then we've got theta equals the inverse of the cosine, 9 over 13. Then simply put that into the calculator. So inverse cosine of 9 divided by 13. Enter, boom. And your answer should be 46.2 degrees. Bam. All right. Now we're on to the final one. So look at the angle of reference. All right, there it is. Here he is. Yeah, he's really, doesn't look that happy, but whatever. All right, now let's label the two sides. We've got the hypotenuse across on the 90-degree angle. We've got the opposite side from the theta over here. And then we've got the adjacent side over here. So which two sides do we know? We know the opposite side and we know the hypotenuse side. Which trig function uses opposite and hypotenuse? That's going to be sa, or the S, sine. So sine of theta equals, what's it gonna be? 6 over 11. Yeah, wow. There you go, high five. All right, so now how are we gonna get theta alone? What do we do here to get theta alone? Well, we're gonna take the inverse of the sine. Oh my goodness, yes, inverse of sine, -1. And then inverse of sine over here, yeah. That's gonna cancel out the sine on the left side, boom. And leave me with theta equals inverse of the sine, 6 over 11. Now, simply put that in the calculator, inverse of sine. 6 divided by 11, enter, is going to be theta equals 33.1 degrees. And that, my friends, is how we do the problems where you're finding the measure of an angle using trigonometry. Oh my goodness, wasn't that just a blast? Ha! All right, so you guys are going to try those problems at the bottom on your own. If you don't have a nice calculator that can do this, then just set up the trig equation, get to the point where you have theta equals the inverse of a trig function and then whatever numbers in the parentheses, and leave it there. And we'll finish solving in class the next time. But that's the end of this video, guys. So until next time, peace!